If there's one thing that you need to understand, is that time is finite. It is your least abundant resource on this earth. You only live one life. And once that life is done, you'll never be able to regain lost time. In fact, the time that you've wasted now, you'll never be able to make up for it. You cannot make up for lost time. You need to realize that one day you're going to die. It isn't a possibility, it is an inevitability. Just like all the famous people before, just like all your ancestors, you are going to die. There's going to be a time where you simply have no more time left on this earth. And once you die, it's over. You will never get that time back. So now I want you to think about what you spend most of your time doing. And be frank to yourself. How much time do you waste in a day? Because I'd say for the majority of people, they waste about 8 hours a day. And you'll say, how can I waste 8 hours a day? But you'd be surprised. And for most of you, what you spend most of your time doing is like scrolling through social media, watching like useless content that literally won't matter tomorrow. And that's so important. When you go on TikTok, when you go on Instagram, that content that you consume, or the actions that you do on these social media apps, do they matter the day after? Look, scratch that. Do they even matter 2 hours later? When you've gone on TikTok and you've liked like 5 reels, well, I say 5 reels on TikTok, you've liked like 5 TikToks. 20 minutes later, does it matter that action? Does that action have any meaning in your life whatsoever? Or is it just something that wasted your time? The time that you wasted watching social media, watching like stupid content online, you'll never get it back. The time that you spent watching this video and the time you will spend watching this video, you will never get it back. This will be bad for like my analytics, but my main goal is to help you. So if this YouTube video is not worth your time, if you don't believe it is worth your time, then stop watching. Go do something meaningful. Something that will matter 5 years from now. And I mentioned death. TJ! And I mentioned death earlier. And you really have to fathom the fact that you're going to die. Because unless you fathom that, you will never be able to make progress in what I want to tell you. Because look, the fact is you're going to die. Your time here is going to run out. So now I have to ask you, do you want to live a life of meaning? Or do you want to waste your life? Do you want to just be an everyday Joe who amounted to nothing, who was mediocre, who will not be remembered 30 seconds after he dies? Or do you want to leave a legacy behind? Do you want to live a meaningful, purposeful, fulfilling life? Do you want to live a life that, you know what, you'll look back and you'll be like, that was challenging, but I spent my time doing things that were meaningful. I spent my time doing things that progressed me towards my goals. I didn't waste time watching Kim Kardashian on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Didn't waste countless hours looking at stupid videos on Instagram. I am under the impression that every human being has a purpose. And this is your duty to fulfill your purpose, to become the best version of yourself. Because look, you may not think that you can make a huge difference, but if you do not become the best version of yourself, the world will be a bad place. It will be worse off than if you became better. Because let's say you became the best version of yourself. In your lifetime, you're probably able to affect about 1,000 people positively. And those 1,000 people will affect 1,000 people. So in your lifetime, you affect 1 million people indirectly. Those 1 million people will affect now 1 billion people. You are the center of like a network. So what you do greatly impacts the world. You may not think that you have any significance in a world of 7 billion people, and that is true, but it's also false. Quite literally, what you do with your life can either make the world a better or a worse place. You have great responsibility within your hands. As a member of society, as a human being, you have great responsibility. So it is your responsibility to live a purposeful and meaningful life. Because it's when you live a purposeful and meaningful life that you don't waste time doing these stupid activities. You don't waste time scrolling on TikTok, on Instagram, watching Dynasty on Netflix. Because all those activities, once you do them, they don't matter the next day. And I'm not saying never do those things, I'm just saying your time should be spent doing meaningful things. And I actually find it quite disgusting when people spend 90% of their time doing things that just like a placeholder that pass time by. When people spend their whole weekend consuming. And you know, they'll watch like every single football game. They'll watch like every single thing, consume everything that there is to consume. And you know what? I think people don't understand that their time is running out, and people don't understand the responsibility that they have. Because you'll see people on the weekend, they'll spend the whole weekend consuming. They'll spend all their free time consuming. When they're free, they'll watch the football game. When they're free, they'll watch Formula 1. When they're free, they'll watch Dynasty on Netflix. And they'll be like, I'm gonna watch Bridgerton and I'm gonna watch all of that. Constant consumption leads to mediocrity. So every human being has a purpose on this earth. We are all equally important for the good of this earth, and all equally important for the bad of this earth. So it is your duty, with the great responsibility that you hold, to find your purpose. And the simplest advice I can give you to find your purpose is simply, stop consuming. The less time that you spend on like these stupid apps, on stupid activities that do not matter, or that will not matter the next day, the sooner you will be to finding your purpose. Because I'll tell you what happened for me. I stopped consuming, I deleted Instagram, I stopped watching Netflix. Within a month, I found what I believe is my purpose. And I'll tell you my purpose now. I believe my purpose is to show young men, specifically young African men, what can be done. To inspire a young generation to dream bigger. Because ultimately what I want is for Africa to dominate, for Africa to be the continent. You know how Europe has been the continent and now Asia is becoming that continent. By the time I die, I want Africa to be that continent. The only way that I can help is through these YouTube videos, because I can inspire a generation of young men, and those young men will become better. And if they become better, they're likely to earn more, so they'll invest more in their countries. And if they invest more in the countries, the likelihood of those countries improving, the likelihood of Africa becoming a formidable continent increases. I truly believe that's my purpose, and I found this simply by stopping consumption. I stopped going on Instagram every day. I stopped watching Netflix. I stopped consuming stupid YouTube videos. And I spend more time thinking, more time to myself. So I promise you, if you stop consuming, you will find your purpose, and it will be so blatantly clear to you. So do you know what? Time is going to pass anyway. So you might as well spend that time doing meaningful activities that will matter 5 years from now. Activities that will better your life and better the lives of your like family, of your colleagues, of your community, and even of the whole world. You must have a purpose, because with a purpose comes a great burden. And you may say, I don't want a burden. But having, especially as a man, having a burden, having responsibility is good. Because a man can only walk straight when he has a heavy load on his back. Without that heavy load, he walks aimlessly, zigzagging, going from pleasure to pleasure. So it is your duty to find your heavy load and carry it, to pick up your cross. It is your duty to live an intentional life. If your life lacks intention, you will be like a feather in the wind. You'll be at mercy to what the wind decides. You will never decide where you're going. Society will decide where you're going. Your parents will decide where you're going. Your friends will decide where you're going. And because you didn't live that intentional life, because you didn't fulfill your purpose, the world will be a worse place. But if you do the opposite, the world will be a better place. I often find myself talking to my friends, and I'll tell them that I struggle to do things that have cheap dopamine. Like watch like a random football game that I'm not interested in, watch Netflix, watch a movie, watch something. And I always used to think of this as bad. And fair enough, there is an element of like you can't, whatever. But I don't think it's bad. I think once you find your purpose, once you find the meaning in your life, once you attach meaning to your life, you'll find it hard to waste time. You'll find it hard to do things that won't matter the next day. And do I think the fact that I struggle to enjoy cheap dopamine activities is bad? To be honest, I don't. Because it'll propel me further than people who are like, let me indulge in this. I just feel like I'm hyper aware that my time is going to end. One day I may die. That day may even be tomorrow. And I want to leave a mark on this world. I want to fulfill my purpose, because I believe God created me for a reason. He created you for a reason. So I'll ask you, do you want to leave a mark on this world? Do you want to leave a legacy behind? Or do you want to be an everyday Joe? Do you want to make this world better? Or do you want to live an unintentional life and make it worse? The choice is yours. And I'll leave you to decide. But I know for a fact that you know what you need to choose. You know the responsibility that you need to assume. And it will be tough, but it will be fulfilling. It will be the best thing that you can ever do with your life.